Okay. What's going on, good people of the internet? My name is James Portis. I am the editor-in-chief of ShootTheBreezeComics.com, soon to be on ComicsGround.com, and we are here with both the editor-in-chief as well as the head writer for Mad Cave Studios, Mark London, and their social media coordinator, Chris Sanchez. How are you guys both doing today?
I'm doing great, man. I'm Chris Sanchez, communications and digital media, sort of social media person.
Hey James, I'm Mark London, CEO of Mad Cave Studios. I also write a couple of books that some might heard of. Thank you for having us.
A couple books, meaning all of them.
Almost say a couple. What are you talking about? All right, but no. How about we start it off? And what is Mad Cave Studios? What gave you guys the idea of getting into comic books? Either of you guys could work that up.
You want to take it, Chris?
I think you should field this one, Mr. CEO.
All right. Well, you probably interviewed a couple of people, a lot of people, James, and you know that everybody that it's making comics is because at one point in our lives we were exposed to a comic book that actually changed our lives. For me, it was actually the opposite. It was more movies, and it was more animation. It was more actual novels that drove me through storytelling, that I really wanted to create worlds, create journeys for readers, play with different characters. So it was more the storytelling aspect. And then, sure, growing up and started reading a lot of comic books, you get a passion and a sense of love for sequential art that nothing can match that. So a couple of years ago, I had this passion project in mind. Okay, let's just start with a website. Let's put up some comic book pages. Let's do a web comic, but just for fun. But then, as we started developing and getting the right people on board, like it started taking a mind of its own. And the group that we got, we were like, hey, but why don't we actually make something out of this? And then, like all crazy ideas, all crazy startup concepts, as you will, it became what you see today, which is Mad Cave Studios, and we're a publisher that we just want to tell our stories and want to share this with anybody that would listen or pick up a Mad Cave Studios book.
I must say, like, the main thing I noticed from you guys is you're not the traditional throw out a superhero and make a brand type of publisher. You're telling very unique stories. Like, you have like medieval worlds, you have futuristic societies, you have biblical stories, for crying out loud. You have these unique stories you want to tell. What made you guys want to tell these stories for like a comic book audience?
Well, I think it's part of again, growing up in the '80s and being exposed to everything that you just said. I mean, in terms of futuristic worlds or medieval fantasy stories, or there was a lot of Conan the Barbarian back in the day. So I guess that it's all of those concepts, and we just put it in a blender, and we have kept true to those type of stories, those type of journeys from the '80s and '90s that actually enticed a lot of us to dream with characters and see political situations or crazy worlds. So I think it's that.
All right. Now, what? Like my thought here. What gave you guys like the first thought for your first book? What was your first book for those people who don't know like what you guys put out? And then how did you get it out there? Because there's always that first start of some people who go to conventions, who try to get their book into a comic book shop. What did you guys do to get your book out there?
Chris, you should take that one.
The first book. Well, this year, when it first started, we mainly our flagship sort of big title was Battle Cats, and it's this big medieval fantasy world with lots of lush world building and all this. And yeah, when we first started, we were going to cons all the time, trying to get our book out there, making sure that people see our drive and our passion and our love of both the series and just the medium in general. And then as we started growing this year, when we got into Diamond, so now like everyone nationwide and even beyond can actually order our books. Um, and the relationships that we built through cons and online and our presence and just our relationships with everyone really built that decision to go forward Diamond and get our name out there and get Battle Cats the proper release that it deserves. And continuing on with Midnight Task Force and these different series, is sort of what we want to bring is our love and passion and getting it into the hands of people.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then what gave you the idea for Battle Cats, Mr. Lund, if you don't mind me asking? Like, I love this pitch over here that Chris gave us, this idea that a medieval world that anyone can jump into. You don't need any prior knowledge. You don't need to pick up a trade paperback to dive in. It's so new that you can just get into it and love it. What gave you the idea? What is the basic groundwork of Battle Cats?
Okay, that's a great question, James. I've always loved cats. I mean, I think that they're fascinating animals. So I was, side story, a lot of people might compare it with Thundercats. I might be like, oh, so this is the Thundercats. Actually, I never, and I really can promise you that it was never a factor. Actually, Thundercats was never a factor when we created Battle Cats. But it was more the love that I had for King Arthur and Knights of the Round Table. So I was always fascinated with Arthurian legend and Excalibur and everything that was supposed to be one of the Knights of the Round Table and devoted to his king, etc., etc. So I guess that I started playing with the whole notion about Battle Cats and King Arthur, and then how can we expand it and make her our own world with their whole deities. And some people that were working with us in the early stages, they were really hardcore fans of role-playing games. So they would suggest hey, what happens if we have the classes here? So I was like, okay, we can explore that, but not as a class itself, but more as a region. And what's going on with this different region? And is this region well known for what? It's vegetation. It's because they're magic users. It's because they're priests. They're more connected to nature. What's the world like? And then we have a king that has its own political system. In Czech, he's completely going for the mandates of the Lion God, which is who created this whole world. But like everything, there are a lot of felines that don't agree with the king, and they want to start their own factions. So the king needed a group of felines that could help him, aid him when incredible circumstances might have arisen that challenged his kingdom. And that's how the Battle Cats came about. And felines at a very young age, they're sent to a region called the White Marsh Islands, and they have to train. And the Battle Cats are 5 Battle Cats, and each one represents the main region in Valderia. So I don't know, one thing led to the other, and again, I started playing with one concept, many different situations, this could be set in the future, this could be a space opera, this could be I also am a fan of beat 'em up games, so this could just be a very simple beat 'em up, a faction of cats rivaling their mirror counterparts, and maybe but I don't know. It's all the love of everything that I was exposed growing up that actually I kept on adding, and I guess that's basically what came about, and that's Battle Cats for you.
All right, that is an actually really interesting story. I know our managing editor Christina has definitely taken a look at the series. What gives you the drive to keep making these amazing stories? We have things coming up like Midnight Task Force we are going to talk about. You have books like Knights of the Golden Sun. You have this new series, Honor and Curse. What gives you this drive to create these stories? Because you don't see stuff like this normally in comic books. You don't see these unique takes on certain things. Heck, you don't even see sort of the adult takes you see in things like Midnight Task Force that I even said in my review that was very adult oriented that you wouldn't see for most people. So what gives you this idea to make this niche market of comic books? But either of you can answer that question.
Well, I'm just going to tell you one simple thing, and again, it's a great question, James, because I couldn't tell you exactly why, but Chris Fernandez, who is our chief strategic officer, one time he told me, like, listen, I'm analyzing like all the stories and all the content that you're trying to put out, and you know what? This is like a toy box. This is your like a child's toy box, and I was like, you know what? It actually is. So at a subconscious level, I mean, all of them are guardians. All of them are somewhat on a hero's journey. But you have the warrior, you have the guardian, you have the detective, you have the ninja. All of these things was something that, again, in the 80s and 90s were popular. So what we're trying to do is like bring back that love of those characters of the era, of that toy box that a lot of people were actually playing with at the time, and trying to make modern comics that actually can just entertain and fascinate, and they can resonate to a younger audience, or even for a 40-year-old guy like me, for example. So that's all I have to say. I don't know if Chris wants to add a little bit about more of the stuff that he's seen, or how he has seen our stories.
No, I mean, to jump in here, it's we're playing with genre a lot, and sort of this idea that we can go into these dark places, or in these adult places, or even go more lighthearted in these genre stories, because genre is what really grabs you. When I was younger, that was the thing that really grabbed me, these hard genre pieces. As you grow older, you probably start getting more slice of life stuff or more human relationship things. But the thing that really sticks with you is that genre, and that sci-fi bent, or those Japanese folklore stories, those different playing with genre and playing with these on the surface could be stereotypical characters, but giving them depth and giving them struggles and challenges, so that they're still human in a way in this very hard genre world.
All right, and then do you not see like any possibility that, like, say, some like a young kid would pick up Midnight Task Force and see like a really dark and gory world that could just it could be very like off-putting to them? Do you not see any conflict that could occur from that type of like open genre mindset? Like, have you not thought of maybe somewhat splitting up like a sort of like all ages section, maybe an adult section? Have you not thought of that in a way?
I could take this one. My view on that is a view sort of going along with, like, that's not really our job. Is to create what we want to create and create these stories and put them out into the world, and not necessarily for us to censor what we want to do and separate it. But there are companies that do imprints and different things like that to make it easier on people. But at the end of the day, when I was a kid, I grew up reading rated R stuff or watching rated R stuff, and it didn't really change me in a way, but it sort of exposed me to things. And I think getting exposed, obviously it's up to like parents and different guidances and how young you are and how ready you are for certain things. But at the end of the day, our job is to create these stories that we want to make and that we think people will love and enjoy, no matter, whenever they're ready for it.
All right, and then going along with that genre aspect and that openness to tell stories that are whatever you want them to be, no holds barred, no uncensored. With recently, you guys had your talent search, and you have this ability to bring in new talent to do whatever they want in terms of like creating stories. Are you going to be holding anybody back? Are you trying to put them in a lane that's just what you want them to do, or are you open to ideas of new stories to tell?
I can take this one, Chris. Well, obviously, all the people that won the talent search, they're coming on board and they're going to be working with us closely, and they're going to be designing and they're going to be like contributing and developing the stories that we have sat down with them because we want to tell them. Sure, we're open to different ideas, but we have to bear in mind that storytelling, precisely for the reason that you were mentioning, James, I mean, it's not the stuff that you're supposed to put out there. I think that everybody has an obligation of okay, what is the type of story that you're telling out there, that you're telling people. I mean, whether it's a lot of people just do it for gratuitous. I mean, it's just going to be gore, it's going to be cursing, it's going to be nudity, and sure, in this darn age, all of those things sell. But at least for us, for Mad Cave Studios, like Chris was saying, we don't want to hold back on the type of stories that we want to tell, but we do want to tell them in a manner that it's elegant, that it's well done, that everything that you're seeing on the page has actually it's because everything is planned. So with this new artist, we have been very, 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 let's just say, not strict, but I mean, they understand the type of books that Mad Cave Studios wants to put out there. And again, quality books. We're still a young publisher, so we're trying to do everything in our power to always top the bar, to always raise that bar for the fans, for anybody who would pick up a Mad Cave Studio. So we're open to suggestions. We're open to anybody that wants to embark on untraveled paths or whatever. But always, let's not forget that we want to tell these stories with a keen eye to quality and the right vision. I don't know if that makes sense, James.
Oh no, it makes perfect sense. So like,
Yeah.
you're not really going for like an image. Anybody can make a book. You're trying to lay out a world that you have going on. You're not like telling an interconnected world, but you are at the same time telling the stories that have specific going on within your publishing line. You have books laid out that you want to give people, that you want to pitch to people to tell your stories.
Exactly. And for example, in Midnight Task Force, which is our mature rated book, it's labeled mature for that reason, because it's got graphic violence, again, not gratuitous. It's there for a reason. I mean, they're dealing with grisly crimes, with serial killer on the loose. I mean, Detroit in the year 2055, it's a nasty place to live. Your main character has gone through a lot, and what we're trying to show here is how a character who has dealt with a lot of difficult situations in the past is now trying to overcome those difficult situations, how he's really a broken man and he's battling out his demons, his metaphorical demons, and how he's trying to overcome everything that is happening to him, and the way that he acts, the way that he interacts with the world. It's like his own defense mechanism, because he's angry. He's angry because he blames everybody. So again, there's always like a reason for everything that we are trying to put in our books. And if you dig deep enough, you will see like what is it exactly that we're trying to do. But there's definitely a message there, for example.
All right. And then you have your newest series, Knights of the Golden Sun, that did the newest issue first come out, and then you also have multiple monthly issues coming out. Can you tell people about that book specifically?
You want to take that one, Chris?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Knights of the Golden Sun. First issue actually comes out next week.
Oh, next week. It was last week. My bad.
No, it's cool. Next, and it's our Angels versus Demons story. It's about Archangel Michael and his quest basically to not fix humanity, but sort of solve this mystery that's gone on because it takes place between the Old Testament and the New. And during that time, God has sort of abandoned providence and humanity. And it's all about, and this story is all about how humanity deals with it, and more importantly, how these angels are dealing with now having new responsibilities and how they're sort of shaken on their faith now that their creator is gone, and how these fallen angels are sort of taking this chance now to influence humanity in a dark path.
All right, and then like this is another one of those books that recently we had Boom Studios' book Judas. We're having this book, this sort of rise of biblical fiction once again in current mythology. Mr. London, what gave you the idea to visit this like plane of existence for storytelling?
I wrote this story for my wife. She has always loved the subject matter, and one day we were just having dinner and we were like, hey, you know what? There's like Chris said, there's this period between the Old Testament and the New Testament, which is called the 400 years of solitude, which basically God did not speak to his people or to his angels. Nobody heard from him. So I was toying with the idea, like, hey, what really happened? I mean, history didn't stop. Everything kept going. But what was happening behind the curtain? Where was the angels commander in chief? And what would be like their perception? Like, okay, we were always being told what to do, and now we don't have our big brother basically telling us what is it that we have to do. So are we going to keep on doing what he wanted us to do? Are we just going to join the fallen, which is Lucifer, and try to take over? What's going on with the humans? What's up with the whole political situation at the time? Which actually, in those 400 years of solitude, you have a great also political situation in terms of Alexander the Great, for example. Alexander the Great was conquering the known world. He was battling, the Persians left and right. So I tried to get those themes in order and be like, okay, let's try to tell a story about where is God, what's the dilemma between that the angels are having, and what's up with the humans. How are they perceiving that basically the world is it's full of chaos at the moment, and where's hope? What is it that we're supposed to do? So again, hero's journey. This is the struggle of your characters in a fantastical setting, and it has fascinated me. The exploring, the lives of the angels, your archangels, and I was fortunate enough to play with Michael and with Gabriel, which in our story is Gabrielle. She's female. Also Raphael and Uriel. Those are your main archangels. And you're going to see Lucifer and a couple of the fallen. And I'm really proud of that story. Well, see what people think about it next week.
That's what's up. And then, Chris, you like deal with social media. You deal with communications. What have you seen people gravitating towards your guys' stories? What have you seen the reception being? And then, do you think people will enjoy Knights of the Golden Sun because of the amazing pitch that Mr. London just gave us?
No, yeah. What I see on like social media or when I go to comic shops or did different podcasts or different things like that, I see them loving our fun and how we play with genre and how our characters act and how we're not afraid to take these chances and these bold choices, and different aspects of that, and how much quality we put into it is the first part, and how consistent we are. That's especially true with retailers, is that we're always on time. We always make sure our books get shipped out. But I actually just was at my comic shop earlier Wednesday. And when I was showing them Knights of the Golden Sun, they were like, oh man, like this art is amazing. And then when I talked about the story, they're like, oh, that's fascinating. Like, that's not a story you hear every day, or on the shows or different things about it. And then they're like, oh, this is truly like, it's biblical in a way that's not preaching to you, but it still has that history and that knowledge and that research behind it, which is new to people, and they're seeing it as like, oh, this is a biblical story told in a way that's relatable and interesting, and still has that fun aspect to it that all our books have.
That's what's up. I love that your guys' attitude, that you're wanting to have fun. And then the biggest part that you mentioned is that it's always on time. You're not trying to throw out 20 books, trying to impact the market in a giant way. You're excuse me. You're trying to actually make quality more than trying to overpopulate the market with a bunch of books that aren't good. And the fact that you took your time, you went out, you had one or two books, you showed them to people, and you got this amazing reception is just phenomenal.
Thank you so much for the.
Excuse me.
That's exactly what we're trying to do, and that's really what Mad Cave Studios is trying to stand for in the market. I mean, again, we're super young. We just started out this year, but that's the commitment, and that's really the level that we want to bring to our beloved industry.
Now, I did notice that you have this focus that you want to be in the local comic book shop. Have you seen any success through digital, or do you see your main focus being the local comic book shop?
Mark, you should probably feel this one.
Okay. No, I think that really physical comic books are not going to go anywhere. I mean, there's nothing that can match the experience of a printed comic book. And also, there are a lot of people that depend on books being sent to them. You got your mom and pop stores. You got second, third generation of people that have or that own also a comic book shop. And digital, yes, sure, it's there. It's something new. It will continue to evolve, like everything. Check out the music industry, check out the video game industry, check out the movie industry. But comic books, they refuse to actually evolve towards full digital. And I think that for one thing is that you're not going to be able to match the experience of actually having a comic book printed in your hands, the way that it smells, the way that you interact with it. And second, there are a lot of people that actually rely on you sending them books. That's how they put food on the table. So Mad Cave Studios has always been very vocal, and we want to support our local comic book shops and the retailer as much as we can. That's why Chris Sanchez, he also interacts with them all over the internet and be like, okay, how can we actually help you? How can we actually be better for you? Alex Stensby, which is our publisher and also our retailer manager, he actually is very in tune with all the things that Diamond suggests that we should do for the retailers. So in a nutshell, I don't think that physical books are going anywhere, James, and there are a lot of people that depend on the physical books, and we're still going to support them as much as we can.
That is amazing, because you do see some publishers that are going to digital exclusive, not seeing the comic book shop as the source it can be, because the comic book shop for so long has been the source of what comic books are. Yes, some people see it as a bit of a gate to get into comic books, but you, with your like amazing quality, are getting people into books who have never even gotten to comic books before. Have you seen that interaction in a way with interacting with different people, seeing new readers coming into comics from your books?
Yeah, I see it on social media all the time, with our books or different books where it's different. They love these, especially with indie books, where it's these different stories and you don't have to have like 4 years of back knowledge to actually get into it. You can actually just pick up a trade or pick up an issue and actually get that story firsthand and experience. It's also why, with our genre pieces, there's there's at least a background in that genre that they can reference on and they can be a part of immediately. And sort of, especially if they're like in fantasy novels or in the sci-fi movies like Blade Runner or Tolkien or different things, then we have different stories for that. And even though it's a comic book, it's still an engaging and fun read for people who are not necessarily into comics.
Excuse me. And with that, you have like you have these two people who are getting into comic books. Do you see yourself like keep evolving your stories? You like you said, you went from like medieval with Battle Cats. You had this detective story. You had this biblical story, and now you're even diving into the world of ninjas with like your newest series. What made you go with Honor and Curse and dive into this new world that you're like? Because you have this idea. You said the toy box. Like, what made you go for this type of toy, this new idea to give to people?
I don't know. I think that they just they're close to my heart, man. What can I say? I know that that's a very probably cliched answer, but it's the things that made me smile when I was young, and hopefully I can repay that smile by bringing that subject matter, that genre, that crazy story that we have planned for everyone with Honor and Curse. So we'll see. We'll see if we succeed.
All right, and with that book being as new as it is, can you give people a taste of what it's about yet, or is it something you want to leave off for a little bit?
No, actually, you want to take that one, Chris, or should I?
You go ahead. I'll talk about like when it's available and stuff.
Okay, good. No, Honor and Curse. It takes place in feudal Japan. It follows your main character Genshi Sakagura. He's adopted by the Iga clan, and after he witnessed the murder of his family, so he's an orphan. And the master of the Iga clan, the sensei, he is the one that finds him and he starts training him. At that time in feudal Japan, there was let's just say a struggle was brewing between the Igas and the Kogas. So the Igas, they were trying to prepare their people in case that there was a war on the horizon or they were being attacked. So this master, their sensei Nishiro, starts training Genshi as he starts growing older and older and older. And obviously the head of the Iga, which his name is Lord Haruki, he has a daughter named Akemi, and she is actually falling in love with Genshi. And so is Genshi. So there's a couple of forbidden love there. Haruki, the lord of the Igas, he's taking notice. He wasn't very keen of Genshi for reasons that I can't tell you, but you will see it in the book. But Nishiro basically just says like, hey, listen, I'll deal with him and I'll prepare him accordingly. But we start to see that there's a dark secret inside Genshi. We see that everything from his past also it's coming afloat, and he has this demon, this demon which is called a Tengu, and it's a lot of we're also playing with a lot of Japanese folklore, and that's all I can tell you for now.
All right. I mean, like you said, Chris, when can people see this book coming to the local comic book shops?
So you can order the book in December, the first issue of Honor and Curse, and it releases in February.
All right. And then one thing that I wanted to swing back to is like the fact that you did have this talent search. Do you plan on having more talent searches? Do you plan on bringing in like more diversity? Because it's obvious that it isn't just like a bunch of white guys making comics. Like you are like having this new like type of diverse way about you. You're telling diverse stories as well with like Midnight Task Force. You're telling this story, Honor and Curse. Do you feel like yourself bringing different people from different walks of life into your brand, your publishing, to tell amazing stories?
Yeah, definitely. For 2019, we also want to bring back the talent search. A lot of people has been asking for it. A lot of people that participated in the first talent search that they were not picked up. We've been telling them and encouraged them to keep working at it. Again, very talented people, but we couldn't give everybody a spot. But next year, I mean, I encourage people to keep on trying, and I know that Chris is also already thinking about he's going to probably handle it for next year on social media. But definitely, that's what we want, James. We want to bring diversity. We want to bring new voices. I think that with the talent search, we're bringing up a new generation of very talented artists and writers and colorists and even inkers sometimes, and even letterers to the world of comics. So that is something that also Mad Cube Studio is going to push for. And I think that Chris is going to do an amazing job next year, right?
Yeah, I'm here to do whatever it is that needs to be done, apparently. Apparently, I am here. No, but I get questions. I get questions on social media all the time. What's the next talent search? I get submissions in on like different portfolios, and yeah, like continue to send your stuff in, or wait until talent search, polish your craft. Always keep creating, always keep building. That's the one way for us, like, to get notice of you, even beyond the talent search, is get your stuff out there, create, always create. That's it's sort of the cliche answer, but it's sort of the right one, where you kind of, in an industry so small as this, you have to not just wait for an opportunity, you have to make an opportunity for yourself. And so yeah,
definitely. And then, like, Mr. London or Chris, both of you, what could you give as advice to not only these people that are like wanting to be a part of your talent search, but anybody trying to start their own publishing line? You like had this drive, you had this vision to get yourself into comic books. What can you give like advice to people, both who are trying to get into comics, just writing or inking or lettering or anything, as well as trying to start their own publishing line themselves?
I'll go first.
Yeah.
Be genuine. Do it. At the end of the day, it is a job, it's occupation. But do it for the medium. Don't be like, oh, I'm gonna make this comic book and then but really you're like putting a movie script as a comic book. Because I don't know. Whenever I read that stuff, it sort of always comes out. It's like, oh, okay, you don't really know comic storytelling, or you don't know panels. There's something here that's off. It's always about being genuine, doing it for the love of the medium. Read comics as much as possible. If you want to get into comics, read comics. Read novels, constantly be on the rise for new genres or new stories that can influence your writing or your drawing or your lettering. Also, letters and colorists, please, more of you, please submit to us. You guys make stuff possible. Letters and colorists are often overlooked, and good letters and colorists need to be paid like that. Like, they're amazing. But yeah, like I said before, like making an opportunity for yourself, get your stuff out there, create.
If I could add to that, it's don't give up. Don't give up. Like my wife always told me, this is not a sprint. It's a marathon. Just keep working at it. Keep working at it, because there are a lot of people that are working harder than you, smarter than you. You have to be doing research. It amazes me. A lot of people think that, and it's really common knowledge that they say, like, oh, you know what? Don't worry about it. There are no rules in making comic books. There are a ton of rules of making comic books. I mean, you need, like Chris said, you need to try to at least grasp a little bit of what you're doing. So pick up a comic book, read as much as you can. And there's this fabulous book called Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud. Mm-hmm. I recommend that book to everyone that wants to start working or is an aspiring creator. They should read that book. It's going to tell you everything that you need. Yeah. The invisible rules or the visible rules. I mean, everything is there. And keep working at it. Keep working at it. And if you really want it, it will eventually come to fruition. But you just can't give up. And there's going to be a lot of rejection. There's constant rejection all the time. But you just have to keep on working at it. Keep on working at it. Try to be better than even yourself. Even if nobody's telling you to be better than yourself. That's all I can
That
all
is
my
am-
advice.
that is amazing advice. Both of you, I want to thank you for doing this work that you do, because not everyone has that creativity to put this much work, this much love into the comic book industry. You see so many different people like struggle, and I know you guys have probably seen your your struggles in your time, and like the idea that you've gotten this far and you're continuing to grow. You didn't just stop at a few books; you're going further with your ideas. That is amazing to see in this industry.
Thank you very much, James.
Oh, yeah. If you're not struggling, you're not doing it right.
Exactly.
That
You couldn't have said it better, Chris. You're
yeah, like that's we're not like resting on our laurels. Like we're still struggling, and we'll continue to do so because that's what being in this industry, but what's being in a profession that challenges you and that you want to be in is about.
Oh, most definitely. Well, both of you, thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate the love that you're putting into this conversation, into the comic book industry. I appreciate both of you guys sitting down with me this week. Like Chris said, Knights of the Golden Sun is available next week at your local comic book shop. And then if you want to go ahead and try to order the new book Honor and Curse this December, it will be in your comic book shop this February. And then when do I know that Battle Cats is in trade right now. Do you know when that is going to be coming back for people that are really excited about that series?
Yes, definitely. I mean, we're working hard to actually up the stakes in Volume 2. I'm happy to tell you that Issue 3 so it has been already completed, and we're aiming for May 2019 as a tentative release date. But we're working hard, James, to get more Battle Cats out to everyone, and hopefully it will be before the summer.
All right. Thank you so much, guys, for your time. Folks, don't forget to check these guys out on their website, Mad Cave Studios, and all of their social media. Is it all Mad Cave Studios on Twitter, all that?
All Mad Cave Studios.
Yes.
All right. You guys are very good with communication, so they could reach out to you. They have a question about any series or anything like that, correct?
I have connected like 24/7 now, so yeah, I'm there answering every question.
And like they said, don't forget to check them out on madcavestudios.com. Order their books at your local comic book shop. All their books are able to be ordered from Diamond, so please check them out at your local comic book shop. Don't forget to check them out on all their social media at Mad Cave Studios. But also check out us. We put out reviews of their books as well as other indie publishers and the big two. So don't forget to check us out at shootthebreezecomics.com and soon to be on comicsground.com. Also, check us out on social media at shootthebreezec on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram. And we will catch you folks next time. Peace out.